Welcome back to Mennonite Heritage Village at home. So glad that you could be a part of this. Again, my name is Patrick Friesen. And today, to start things off, I want to pull what we know in my family as a Grandpa George moment. I had a grandpa who really loved riddles, and so I want to share with you one of those today. I have with me a penny. You can hardly find them anymore, but this is a nice little copper, and a nickel, and a quarter. So here's the riddle. David's parents have 3 children. One they named Penny. One they named Nicholas. What did they name the third one? I'll let you think about that for a second. Today on the show, we're happy to have George Klassen with us. George Klassen worked with MCC for a number of years. And this past year, our special exhibit has been celebrating the 100-year anniversary of Mennonite Central Committee and the work that they've done over the years. And one of those things was the roller pump that was developed in Bangladesh. And so we have an interview for you. It's a shortened interview, but there is a longer version, which I'll tell you about after we watch a little bit of the interview. So sit back, enjoy, and let's learn from George about some of the great work that's happened over the years through MCC.
I'm here to talk about a story that started 40 years ago, approximately, and has actually extended right up to the present. My wife and I, as newlyweds, went to Bangladesh in 1977. And fit into the existing MCC agricultural program in Bangladesh. Before I go too far, I need to explain a few things about seasonal agriculture in Bangladesh. There are 2 main seasons, maybe not officially. I will call them the rainy season and the dry season. During the rainy season, Bangladesh receives anywhere from 80 to 100 inches of water. Just for comparison's sake, here in Manitoba, we get about 10 to 15 inches of water during our summer. I should also say that Bangladesh is about the same latitude as Florida, and so the weather is warm year-round. During the summer, our summer, the rainy season, the heat is dampened somewhat by the very, very strong rains. The result of the rains is that Bangladesh, which is relatively flat, is practically flooded from coast to mountain. And the only things that are standing up dry are roads and houses. The fields are flooded, and so because of the huge amounts of water, the preferred crops during the rainy season are crops like rice and jute, which love water. Starting in September, the rain drops off completely, and the season from October until March is bone dry. It's the country which was flooded in the summertime becomes dry like a desert. And that has direct implications for what our work was, what the MCC agricultural work was. The efforts mainly were to provide additional food production in that very dry season. So here's a picture which shows several things. It shows a man plowing his field during the dry season. Obviously, it's very dry. There's no water available. His tools and implements are extremely simple. Here we have two head of cattle, tiny by North American standards, and the equipment includes a bamboo pole as the yoke, a wooden draw stem, or whatever you want to call it, and there's a small metal shear at the bottom. The size of the fields are small. Here we tend to deal with field sizes or farm sizes as numbers of quarter sections. In Bangladesh, a very common field size or even land holding is less than 2 acres, with fields smaller than that making up that total. This is what I would consider a typical Bangladeshi family. Most of the people are Muslim, which didn't really make much difference to our work. But the man's name is Siddiq, and he's a very special person. During the 3 months of language training in Bangladesh, we stayed with this family in their village for a week, so that we had some kind of dropping in on the local culture and ways of doing things. So this is a fairly, as I say, is a fairly common family. The houses are bamboo or other wooden framed with mud sides, and you can't see it here, but if the person is relatively well-to-do, he would have a corrugated iron roof, or if not, then that would be thatch. So very early on in my stay there in Bangladesh, the people in the ag program said, "George, we would like you to develop a better hand pump." And so just to put that into context, cast iron pumps, like the one you see here, have been available through government programs. Some of you may know how this pump works. I'm not going to describe it in detail. Basically, the pump is operated like this. Inside here, there's a piston which drops back and forth like this. There's a foot valve in here. If anything goes wrong with that pump, it is a real problem to get at the working parts and to maintain it. So one of the goals in terms of designing a better hand pump would be to first of all, it has to be durable, because these things are going to be used for many hours in a day, but also to make any maintenance that's required easier than with this pump. I'm just going to step back a little bit more before we get into the pump itself. Fortunately for us, the groundwater conditions in Bangladesh are very favorable. Groundwater is plentiful and generally very clean. Also, the technology for drilling wells, and what we were using this on was 1.5-inch tube wells, which were sunk into the ground down to wherever the water was available. And here you see a crew of men who have come in and are in the process of drilling a well. These wells, typically what happens is the farmer will make payment for a pump and well. In the morning, the crew will come in with all of their materials. The farmer will be asked, where do you want this well? And he'll point anywhere. There's no water witching or anything. He says, I want my well right here. They set up their equipment. They work during the day. At the end of the day, end of one day, they will be finished drilling the well, putting the screen in, putting the pipe in, attaching the pump at the top, developing the well, and everything is functional after one day. So now let's just talk a little bit about the pump itself. What you see here is the pump. One of the key features that I sought to achieve was simplicity. So the basic operation of the pump is the same as this pump, in that you have a foot valve and a piston valve operating, opening and closing at opposite times, and you have a reciprocating action in the cylinder. A big difference is that I eliminated the levered handle so that the pump operates directly, which does several things. First of all, this is a very comfortable way of operating a pump, as opposed to operating like this. Secondly, access to all of the to all of the parts is very, very easy. There's no bolts to undo. To get access to the piston, you pull it out, you got it. To get access to the foot valve, there's this one tool. Here's the foot valve. I'll explain it separately. So this one tool, one of which is supplied with each pump, is used to retrieve and to reinsert the foot valve. So you push it back into place. Down at the bottom, the cylinder has a taper in it, and the foot valve slides into that taper until it seats, and then it seals against the cylinder. And just to finish this up, as before, the reverse of before, the piston goes back in here. Okay, so so you saw within a few seconds, within minutes, the foot valve and the piston, both of the moving parts of the pump, can be removed very, very easily with the one tool. Now, I'd like to show you the details of some of this. Here's the same foot valve as you saw in there. The two parts that could go wrong, or that could require maintenance, let me start with this one. The valve itself is made up of inner tube rubber, and it simply pulls off like this. If you need to replace it, you take inner tube, cut a circle with a hole in the center, pop it back on here, and you're set. The seal, the rubber seal over here, simply sits in this groove. Anyway, so this pops out. Seems to be a little bit tight right there. This pops out and is easily replaced. The piston has a similar valve in it. Here are the parts of the piston. The main part is a stiffener for the valve. Some people think that it looks like the disc in a sausage maker, which is quite an astute observation. Basically, there's a leather seal around here like this. There's a support plate in the back. Again, the same valve. Got this upside down, of course. This spins onto the piston here like this. Attach that with a pin, and it's done. So let me just say a few things about the pump. This is a brand new design using brand new materials, basically PVC pipe as opposed to cast iron. And before we could do any decent marketing of this, we had to know, first of all, that the pump was going to be durable. There was a concern that PVC, as a relatively soft material, was not going to last. So we did very extensive testing out in the field. Here's an example here of a pump that is set up, in this case, close to a rice field. And basically, this fellow operates that pump continuously for days at a time. We did that with several pumps installed in different places. We didn't have accurate measurement or instruments to measure wall thickness, but I cut a few of those pumps apart in the middle. I could not detect any difference in the wall thickness. All I could see was very keen polishing of the inside edge of the cylinder. So we're quite happy with that. We also did output tests, and we found with the surge chamber that a person could pump 50% more water with this pump than with the old pumps. Price-wise, these pumps with the Wells complete package were also considerably less than the cast iron pumps. And so after about 18 months, We put in some test pumps, and then after that, monitored what was happening in the field, and slowly built up the marketing. In 1986, my wife and I returned to Bangladesh to work on a marketing project with International Development Enterprises. We were there for 2 years, and the work has continued. Here is, just want to point out a few examples here. Here are 3 pumps installed in the field. This pump is irrigating leafy vegetables. I'm not sure whether that's broccoli or cauliflower. This person is irrigating eggplant, and this happens to be set up close to a rice field. You can see from the girl here who's carrying a little pot that the pump is used for both irrigation purposes and for domestic uses, since the water is very clean compared to what they would have otherwise. Here's a part that we may want to insert earlier, and that is, here is a drawing showing how the pump is located in the field. Although the pump is inclined at an angle, and that happens to be 30 degrees, which was found to be a comfortable angle from horizontal, but there's a Y connection here, and the actual well going into the ground is vertical. This pipe here is shown with breaks in it because it would be way off the edge of the picture if I drew the whole thing. The length from here to here in the area where we were working in Noakhali was between 50 and 60 feet. And then at the bottom there was a strainer or a filter, whatever you want to call it, attached there to allow the water to go into the tube well and keep the sand outside. So that's a very typical application. You see this, here's also a little bit of a mock-up about how this was set up. The end was supported with crisscross of bamboo sticks, and actually most of this was covered with a mound of soil. And the soil is there to not only steady the pump in operation, but also help prevent theft. These pumps became quite valuable, and if they were left out in the field overnight, in the morning you might come back and there's no pump. So I think I should also mention the economics of this kind of irrigation technology is phenomenal. As I mentioned, the total cost of installation for a pump, and it depends with the depth, is in the vicinity of $100 on a half acre of land, with the farmer donating his labor. But with a half acre of land, the crops from one winter season was enough to pay off all of the crop inputs and the cost of the well and the pump, which I think in anybody's books would be phenomenal. And in addition, the benefits to the family in terms of clean drinking water were also sizable. We never tried to put a value on that, a dollar value on that, but that is a considerable additional benefit. We started with 0 pumps. None of the pumps were given away free, even from the start. Our first year, we had about a 50% subsidy just to help get them introduced. After that, I think the second year was less than that, and after that, the pumps were sold at complete cost. A colleague of mine, Alois Miller from Switzerland, who worked with us on the pump, came to visit us in Carmen in 2014. He had been back. He has continued to work internationally in various projects. He had visited Bangladesh recently, and from his looking around at what was happening with the pumps, the production of the pumps had moved from one workshop, which is what was happening when I left, to many workshops. Some were producing the full pump, some were producing parts. His estimate was that by 2014, 500,000 of these pumps had been installed in Bangladesh. Now, number of pumps is one thing. We know that each one of those pumps Now this has a family of, there's actually 5 children, so that's 7 people in all. Taking an average family of 5, 500,000 times 5 equals 2.5 million people directly benefiting from these pumps. And these are all purchased. These are not giveaways. So in the overall, personally, I've been involved in various irrigation and water projects in my career. I consider this to be the highlight of my career.
Wow, that's quite a bit of information for us to really be able to soak in, and yet there's so much more. In fact, in the description of this video is a link to the full-length interview that and demonstration that George does for us. And so if you want to know a little bit more, I show different kind of close-ups of the mechanism at work, or if you want to find out a little bit more of the impact and how this has spread throughout the world, not just in Bangladesh, I really encourage you to go to that link and watch the entire thing. Share it with those people that really need to be able to hear about this amazing story of providing water for thousands and thousands of people. Now, I want to invite back David Graham. David Graham's going to be playing a special song just for Valentine's Day. I know that was this past weekend, but we're still in the mood, so I hope you enjoy this Valentine's Day tune from David Graham.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song, so I may sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, baby, I love you. Fill my heart with song, so that I may sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you, you.
We're back again this week with Hali Reimer-Chaplin for our Mental Health Minute. Hali, what do you have for us this week?
Well, you know what? When we're feeling anxious or when we're feeling stressed, one of the easiest things that we can do is just to breathe. I know that it seems like it's a no-brainer, but sometimes we forget about how important breathing is. And one way that we can help ourselves breathe a little bit better to help us calm down is by doing a square. So when you do a square, you go from here and you breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, And if you do that 2 or 3 times, what you're going to notice is that your heart rate is going to come down, your breathing is going to become more relaxed, your muscles are going to start relaxing, and hopefully you're going to start feeling some peace and calm again.
And that helped me right away. So I could sense it right away. In fact, I have one of those apps on my phone that tells me every once in a while to,
Ah,
well, actually on my watch, but that tells me every once in a while to just stop and breathe. And exactly that sense of just helping to reset ourselves and find that healing is really good. Thanks a lot,
it's
Haley.
you're very welcome.
All right. I hope you really enjoyed this. By the way, did you get the riddle? Remember, David's parents have 3 children. One they named Penny, one they named Nicholas. What did they name the third one? And if you guessed the right answer, the answer is David. Yeah, you can rewind it and figure it out if you haven't got it yet. All right. Glad you could be around this week. By the way, the carnival, the winter carnival, is being held over for another weekend. Last weekend was a bit cold, although there was a lot of people, still a number of people that came out to enjoy all the festivities, but we are carrying it over for another weekend. So this weekend on the 20th, come on out to MHV, free admission, bring the whole family and enjoy some time skating, going for walks, doing some snow carving, some sledding, you name it, it'll be a good time. Enjoy, take care, and we'll see you next week. Remember to subscribe to this channel to get notifications and like this video if you think it's worthwhile. Thank you.